Hey guys, Rick Stone here from the blog Our Stoney Acres and the online gardening school. Welcome to 5 Minute Fridays, my video series where I try and give you a valuable gardening tip in 5 minutes or less. Before we get started this week, please make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, or if you're watching this on Facebook, make sure you like my Stoney Acres Facebook page. Okay, this week we're going to talk about PVC drip irrigation again, and I've talked about this before where I showed you an actual overview of the PVC drip system that I have in my garden, the main garden, and I'll put a link to that video in the description below. But this time I specifically wanted to talk about using a PVC drip irrigation system in raised beds, okay? Because I've actually had some questions and some comments like, oh, it's too bad I can't use this in my raised beds, or, you know, does this work in raised beds? And the answer to that is yes, it does. It works very, very well in raised beds. And so I wanted to show you my raised beds and how I use them in my system. So it consists of two parts: the main line, which in this case, the main line needs to be glued. Okay, so the PVC in the main line that you're seeing here in this cutaway video needs to be glued because we actually have valves at the top of each of the beds. And those valves will allow us to control the water pressure in each bed individually and even shut it off if we need to. And so everything upstream from the valve needs to be glued so that it can hold pressure and can hold water pressure, okay? And then each bed has its own riser with its own valve, and that then allows us to control the water pressure in each bed. And so this year is a really good example of why that's necessary. I've got 3 different crops growing in my 3 raised beds. In one bed, I've got 3 rows of beets. And so I have 3 pipes running down the full length of the bed in that bed. Then the second bed is 2 rows of potatoes. So I just have 2 pipes in that one. The third bed is just 1 row of cucumbers. And so I have 1 pipe running through that bed. And so each one of those is going to require a different amount of water pressure. And if you don't have a control valve in a raised bed system, then you're not going to be able to control the water pressure, because you want to be able to water more than 1 bed at a time, right? I mean, I can water all 3 of my beds at the same time, 20 to 30 minute setting, and it's done for 3 or 4 days. And that's the nice thing about a drip system. So you want to be able to control the pressure at each individual bed. So you want to make sure that you put a riser in that's glued and that has some type of valve, either a ball valve like I've used, or you can also use just a traditional hose spigot type valve as well. So either one of those, and then you want to, from there you can see what I've done with the raised beds. Here in this cutaway video, I have water coming out of each of the risers that then goes out into the bed and distributes. And in this case, this year, all 3 of the crops that are in my raised beds are row crops. And so the pipe that is watering those crops has a hole drilled about every 4 to 6 inches. And that allows you good coverage on a row crop like that. Now, if I was growing something more, like tomatoes or melons or something like that, where you've just got 1 individual plant and then you've got a 2 or 3 foot space, then I would use a pipe that would only have holes drilled appropriately for the spacing for those plants. And then again, you want to be able to deal with the pressure on that, because a nice drip system just drips or drizzles and not sprays. So you want to be able to control that pressure at the bed level so that you get the appropriate amount of drip. And then most of the time I'm able to just leave these on for about a half an hour, gets a good soak, and just does really well. Every once in a while I'll leave the beets on a little bit longer, especially earlier on in the season when I was trying to get them to germinate. I wanted a really good soak and a good wet there, so I would leave those on just a little bit longer. But for the most part, half hour of this drip system will get a good soak that lasts for 5 days, even in the heat of the summer. It has worked out really, really well for me so far, and I really like this. So if you're interested in learning more about using a PVC drip irrigation system, I actually have filmed what is now almost a 2-hour long course explaining how to build and use a PVC drip irrigation system in your garden. So if you would like to learn more about that, there's a link in the description that will take you to the online gardening school where you can buy that course. The link will give it to you for half off, which is $10 is all that it'll cost you for that course. It's a highly rated course, one of my highest ratings courses, and a lot of people have really benefited from it. So if you're interested in that, please go ahead and follow that link. It'll take you directly to that course where you can buy it and see how to use a PVC drip system in your garden. All right, so that's all I have for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and then make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel or like me on Facebook if you're watching that on Facebook. Okay, everybody have a great week. Happy gardening.